Welcome to Syntax, a podcast with the tastiest web development treats out there. Today we've got the second half of the 30 apps or so that you need on your computer. We've got so many cool apps that we need to show you. We're going to dip into some stuff around productivity, some stuff around window management, a bunch of utilities that we use, screenshots, screen recording software, and a couple dev picks as well. My name is Wes Boss, developer from Canada. With me, as always, is Scott. How you doing today, Scott?
Doing super good. Yeah. Hey, Wes. Turns out when you jump on a trampoline and you have a tree above you, you can kick that tree. I did a backflip this weekend, and I did a monster air. I'm just going to say this. I did way more air than I was expecting, even though I'm no stranger to getting a lot of air, but man, I did a massive backflip and I kicked a tree branch, and both of my feet are destroyed. Yeah, the tree.
Did really? Okay.
Oh, dude, my toes are like black and blue. My feet are all scraped up. It was kind of gnarly. So be careful out there.
I want to like start skateboarding again, but I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna fall and then have that same thing where I'm all bruised and broken. It's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one. I did some skateboarding in Hawaii with Travis when we were there. We were at the park. I dropped in on like a 4-footer, and it's terrifying. I was like, I've not done this since I was 18 or something. And it was very scary, but I did not die. So, hey, you can do it. Load up with some pads. Yeah. So before we get started talking about these apps, let's talk about a utility that we know and love, which is Sentry, the best place to track all of your errors and exceptions. Let me tell you, I use this thing on every single project. I even started using an experimental Godot one on my game that I'm making with my son. So Sentry can be with you anywhere and really just save your bacon anytime you have some errors here and there in your application. And I actually saw this is a little side story, Wes. I saw a tweet the other day, and it was like, oh, thank you so much for so-and-so for letting me know about this bug before other people saw it. And it's like, if you had Sentry, you wouldn't need that. 'Cause you'd have that bug in your dashboard before anybody got to see it. So check it out at sentry.io/syntax. Sign up and get 2 months for free.
All right, so we're going to start off with a bunch of utilities that we use on our computers. And for those who didn't listen to the first half, a lot of these are going to be Mac only. We will try to throw in, or if you know in the comments, throw in a Windows equivalent, and you can pick that up on there. So I'm going to start with the first one here, which is BetterTouchTool. BetterTouchTool is a Swiss Army knife of doing in-depth automation on your Mac without having to write any or too much code. So what I primarily use it for is, first I use it for window management, which making up my own keyboard shortcuts. I've tried all of the window management things out there, and they are either so complex that you have to write like Lua or like spend your entire day configuring the thing, which I am very jealous of. I wish I could do that type of thing. And then on the flip side, there's these like really simple ones that don't really do what it is that I want. So I ended up writing my whole own set of window management shortcuts. I know I just said that I didn't want to do that, but I have all of these shortcuts that allow me to of course, like move the thing up and down on different parts of my screen. Like that's very simple. And then I also have ones that can help me resize the recording. Oh, it just jumped off my screen there to my recording one. Because when I record my courses, I don't record my entire screen. I just record part of the screen. And these window management shortcuts will allow me to adjust my windows on that section of the screen. So I have these like resize recording left, recording safe right, and then I have a whole bunch of increase and decrease shortcuts here that can be used to increase like a window by 10% or decrease it by 10%. So I've been very happy with this, and it sort of meets all of my needs. I every now and then I do dip into some of these programmatic ones that you can code up, or they like try to rearrange your windows smart for you, but I've never been able to sort of dip into it.
Yeah. Window snapping is such a big thing, and now it's going to be baked into the next version of Mac OS, but I don't know to what degree
is it.
Keyboard shortcuts are
like
there.
Really good.
Yeah,
even if it is built in, the BetterTouchTool will like when you create a BetterTouchTool shortcut, what it does is it allows you to just add all of these different things that are from click on this thing, take a screenshot, send this keyboard shortcut to something else. Like a very simple one that I do is I have Command F. When I'm in Spotify and I hit Command F, send Command L to Spotify. Why? Because that, for some reason, search in Spotify is Command L. And I just remapped it to Command
That's
F.
weird.
And it's very, very simple. I also use it for...
Hyperkey?
I don't use that for Hyperkey. I use... Because in order to remap Hyperkey, you need to use Carabiner elements. It does that at a lower level system view. So you have to use that. I do bind all of them. So if I have all these different Stripe test cards here, and my Stripe test cards are Shift, Option, Control, Command, S. And what that it really is bound to is Hyper S. And that what that will do is it will paste in the Stripe test card, delay it 0.10 seconds, hit Tab, paste in 227, delay it, paste in 777, delay it, tab, put in a postal code, right? And I have all of these Stripe shortcuts all mapped to the exact same keyboard shortcut. And when I hit that, what it does is it pops up all of these possible options that are a declined generic Stripe card, a declined CVC fail, incorrect card data, insufficient funds. So those are my 4 commonly used failure cards in Stripe. And then I have 3 different kinds of success cards, one that's just a regular Stripe card, one that does a 3D secure, which is it has to redirect to the user's bank and then come back, and then one which is a debit card, which is a little bit of a different process sometimes in Stripe. So I have all of those set up for me, and they'll do that same process of autofilling it, and that saves me a ton of time in BetterTouchTool. What else do I have here in window management? I have a whole bunch of cropping in my recording. So in ScreenFlow, I have all these little triggers that I want to do over and over again. So I have them all properly set up. So let's see here. Insert bumper. Here we go. So I hit command left arrow, then Command A, then Command bracket, then Command V, and then Command S. That's just something I was doing a million times. So I just sort of architected it in BetterTouchTool, and now I can just hit one single keyboard shortcut, and it'll just do all these triggers for me. There's a million things I have in BetterTouchTool, and I know I talk about it a lot. Even my macro pad here, if I want to turn off, I have this little macro pad, which is sort of like a mini keyboard. And if I were to hit any of the buttons on this, they're all hooked up to turn on and off my recording lights, to turn the office lights on and off. And that's really nice because when I'm sitting here and I'm about to record, I go, oh shoot, I got to turn my recording light on. I just, bam, hit the key on the keyboard and we're off and running. So highly recommend you check it out. I won't go through all of my BetterTouchTool things because I have a million of them, but I'm the biggest fan.
Yeah. I only currently use BetterTouchTool for one thing right now, and that's setting dark mode on Tuesdays. So for me, that's the only thing it is. It's funny, I had other BetterTouchTool things, and I've slowly kind of replaced them. But yeah, that's it for me. It's when we record on Tuesdays, I'm going to have some major glare coming off my browser. So I have one specifically for that. And Wes, actually, they did add Hyperkey support specifically in BetterTouchTool somewhat recently.
So they added the ability to bind to Hyperkey, but they didn't add the ability to actually rewrite it at a system level. So now instead of doing what I did, which is listen for Command Control Option S, they added, unless I'm wrong about that, Raycast did it as well, where they'll display those 4 keyboard shortcuts as a hyper symbol.
Yeah, let's see. It's very specific as in Hyperkey support, but I don't know exactly, how that entails. I'm not a BetterTouchTool master here. I actually, for that specific functionality, I use an app called Hyperkey. It's a single function app, and all it does is turn your caps locks into a Hyperkey. That's it.
Oh.
I use this just because it's extremely easy. It just works,
Yeah, I just reading the documentation. So the Hyperkey and BetterTouchTool can only be used in BetterTouchTool, which is not what I want because I want to be able to use Hyperkey in literally any application. So using, what is it that you use? SuperKey?
Hyperkey app, hyperkey.app.
Yeah, Hyperkey app or Carabiner Elements. Those things will do it at a system level, which is really cool. And you can even define it by which keyboard you're using.
Yeah, totally. Super cool app and nice and easy, nothing crazy. And for window snapping, I do use Raycast myself. I found that Raycast specifically is not bad for that at all, because if I hold my Hyperkey and hit an arrow, I can change the width of this based on whatever, I can center it. And this is all just with Raycast. And that was really simple to set up. So for me, it was I don't have as strict, guidelines in terms of moving things beyond either. It's almost always full height for me. So it's full height. Where is it in the center or the left, whatever. Yeah. And that way I can have 3 up if I wanted. I can have 2 up. I can have, 1 in the middle, 3 by side, full screen, whatever, all easy enough for me. And that's just done only via Raycast. I know a lot of people are going to suggest who use Mac Yabai.
Yeah, I tried this one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the SKHD and Yabai. These two
Amethyst?
Amethyst, man.
That's the one I tried too. Sorry, go ahead.
These are all apparently very, very powerful. There's other ones like Rectangle and I don't know. There's a whole bunch of them. I used to like one where you could draw it on a grid, but ultimately I just don't need that. I just need it to put my windows where I want them to be, to split them, move them around, those types of things. I don't want to get into a massive config object for this.
Maybe I need to try Raycast again because it seems like they do have a couple options. But I did try this one called Amethyst, which is a tiling one. So if you remove a window, it'll retile everything, and then if you add a window, it will retile it all, and it'll try to use the space as best as it is. So there's no dragging around windows or any of that. It simply just is focus on this one, make it bigger, make it smaller, and everything else will sort of just rearrange itself, which is kind of cool, but it was too much for me. I really tried to get into it, and I love complex stuff like this, but
that's the same with me. It's Yabai. It's
that's a Linux level.
I feel like I would really like this app if I had the time to spend managing my window manager, but it's just not that important to me once mine's working fine. It's I did have this working at some point. And SKHD, I believe this is a keyboard shortcut manager, which again, I feel like I have a lot of apps that kind of overlap here, but I'm not using either of these really just because they feel too intense. They feel way too intense for me.
Another one I have here is called Klack. This one's really silly, but I really like it. Klack is an app that will give you a mechanical keyboard sound as you type, and I quite like it. And last time I talked about Klack, a bunch of people brought over this other one called Mech Vibes, and this is a one that works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. It's completely free, and it has way more sound packs, which is so cool. You get to hear all of these other ones. So I would probably grab this Mech Vibes one if you're going to try it out. And it sounds silly, but there's something about the sound of
silly.
it. And everyone's get a mechanical keyboard. I've tried. I literally have 10, and I just can't get into it. I just love the Mac keyboard, but I like the sound, so this works well.
Yeah. I find this one to be a little goofy for me, but I appreciate you and liking it. I have one which is Bottom or BTM, which is a command line utility. It's built in Rust that gives you a system and process monitor. Nice and easy. There's several of these, whether it's GTOP, HTOP, all of the different versions of top that comes within your OS. Mm-hmm. But I found this one to be just super duper nice. I mean, it looks great, and I could have this thing, I pop it open on a side screen or something, or I have a server computer back there. I just throw it on the server computer. So you walk into my office, you see this, you think it looks kind of hey man, it's a hacker man. We're doing hacker man stuff.
You're into some serious business running this.
When in reality, it's just a, performant little system monitor that it's nice to have around. I find that even running activity monitor can crunch your system sometimes. So having this available is nice to have.
So activity monitor is crunching your system. Does it show up in activity monitor?
I actually don't know if that's true, Wes. It's more of a vibe-based thing. And it could just be I open Activity Monitor whenever my computer is slowing down,
Okay.
So, yeah, definitely a vibe-based thing. Also, there's an app that a lot of people use called Clean My Mac, which I'm going to highly suggest you don't use Clean My Mac because it's one of those pieces of software that they have really shady practices around. It's impossible to cancel. They make you pay for updates at wrong times and like just to have basic functionality. And they're just kind of like, I think it started off as a good utility that you maybe didn't need. But at the same time, I think they're just like, I don't know. In my mind, I get bad vibes from the app. So I found this one, which is an open source alternative called Pearcleaner. Now, Pearcleaner is not a beautiful application compared to Clean My Mac, but it does all the same stuff that Clean My Mac does. Like, for instance, if you want to uninstall software and have it remove all of the system files that come along with it, on Mac, that is just something that doesn't happen automatically. So using something like Pearcleaner... Yes,
that like you delete it. You take an app from your app folder and you drag it into the trash. It's leaving all kinds of garbage on your system, which is why next time I get a computer, I'm going fresh. I'm sick of moving over because sometimes I look in like the root directory and I have like files from like 7 years ago. I'm like, what is this from?
Exactly. And so, as you can even see, I just popped open Ableton and there's, library plist files and something in your var folders. It's like this makes sure you get everything away when you delete an application and not just the application file. Yeah, has a mini mode, has a Sentinel monitor that enables to watch trash folder for deleted apps to clean up. So that's like really nice. It's a cool little app, especially for being free, open source, all that stuff. So
yeah, I use one called App Cleaner 2. It's also free. It's been around for many, many years. If you go to the website, it's like a throwback to, you remember the days when we put banners on everything? But here we go. Look, I just dumped a little app I have in here that I don't need. And it found, of course, the application itself, but probably 15 different plist files and application support folders and all that stuff. And that's all garbage, I'm going to go ahead and remove that. And I type in my password and it's all gone. So big fan of that one as well. I don't know I think your Pearcleaner looks a lot nicer than this free Mac soft, but it's never let me down.
It's new, newer. There's themes and stuff. It's just a nice little app. And I think it's like a well-loved community app. So if you're into open source software, this is a good choice.
For typing emojis, I'm a big fan of this app called Rocket. It's from Matthew Palmer, and I've talked about it many times in the past. And what Rocket will do is, as you are typing something, you can just hit, I have mine hooked up to the plus, and then it will automatically just bring up a little emoji picker for you. I find this to be much faster than the built-in Mac OS one. See how slow the Mac OS one is to open? Whereas like Rocket will immediately, you just type plus and you keep on typing. I was falling out of love with it for a while because it wasn't getting good at like keeping up with like pop culture. Like if you wanted to like say like dead, you want the skull emoji, right? And it wasn't showing up. And I found it hard to find the one that I wanted. I was like, I don't know what to type to find the one that I want. So I finally I just went into the Rocket settings and there's these booster packs you can download for free. And one of them is like a whole list of words that will also work. And it works really well. I know there's the Raycast one. If I can't find it, I open up the Raycast emoji one.
Yeah.
And
I use
this one
the
works.
Raycast emoji one. It is like
I find it
you
just
have
gets
to
in the
type
way.
in emoji, then you have to search for it.
Yeah.
But the thing I like I like how yours is a grid. Mine is not a grid.
Oh, no?
Yeah. Why is not mine not a grid?
Maybe you have an add-on. This is baked into...
Oh, gotcha. Yes, I have the search emoji add-on, and I think I got this because of reasons like maybe I got this before it was baked in. But I always had an issue if I like type in wave, it would give me a wave instead of a hand waving. Not in the Raycast one, but in Rocket or any of these. So so for me, it's like, I got to have I got to have that kind of fuzzy search around emojis, but I should use Rocket because it is a pain in the butt to open Raycast, find the emoji one, then start searching for your emoji. It's like a multi-step process when it doesn't have to be.
I think Raycast has some sort of AI behind theirs because it's really good at like pop culture references. Like,
interesting.
What's something the kids are saying right now? You know,
iconic.
Like clapped out.
Clapped out. I don't know. It says clapped out.
Clapped out. Yeah. See, automobile is the third one that shows up.
Okay.
So that makes sense. And a wrench.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I need some Rocket in my life just because that's like the best part about using Discord or Slack is how easy it is to get to emoji.
Yeah, it doesn't, as you're writing it doesn't get in the way.
Yeah, totally.
One for managing your clipboard history. You actually picked this in like one of the very first syntax episodes. It's called Clippy. And what it does is I have it hooked up to caps lock V or hyper V. And what it will do is it will show you your actual history that you've copied. And I find that really handy because if you've copied something and then I accidentally copied something else, you can still get to your past one, you know, like there's always that, like, if you don't have this, there's always that, like, there's something in my clipboard and I need to keep it. So this is really nice. I do also use the Raycast clipboard one. It's a little bit more full featured, but again, I don't feel like opening up Raycast and getting in my way. This one just does it right in line as you're typing.
I actually do use the Raycast one, Wes, and I have it connected directly to a shortcut, which for me is Command-Shift-V.
Yeah.
And so if I'm at anywhere and I do Command-Shift-V, it gives me my clipboard. So that makes it a little bit easier to reason about. I did move from Clippy to using Raycast full time. So for that specifically.
Search. Like you can go back days, you can filter, you can preview images. The Raycast one is better, but I just wish that it was smaller or like in line. Yeah. You know, like I want it to go where my cursor is, not pop up a thing in front of me.
I hear you. Yeah, definitely. But it works. It works really well in case you don't want to have a separate app for that. But yeah, I think if you're out there and you're not using a clipboard manager is one of the most necessary things I could possibly have in my workflow. I can't tell you how many times there's something, you copy one thing, you copy another thing, you copy another thing, you go to your thing, and then you paste them all sequentially or whatever. Yeah. There's so many infinite times that you copy something at some point in your history and you need it again, especially in code, right? I can think of like cutting lines of code from various files and moving them. I can think of URLs that potentially I have that are unique to certain apps that I want to have in my clipboard, or keys, or all kinds of stuff, right? That you want to make sure that you have access to and need when you need them. So a clipboard manager for me is pretty essential.
I think a lot about people who just use iOS devices full time. You know, people are like, iPad is a replacement for a computer, or people are going to college without a laptop. And I think, like, how are you getting anything done in any amount of efficiency when copy and pasting on iOS is so painful and there's no history? You're screwed if you accidentally copy paste something that's not there.
I cannot imagine that is a fun time whatsoever. and like, that's like the whole thing is that if Apple ever wants that a system to be a replacement for a computer, they're going to have to open it up, man. The sandboxing or whatever's going on where you don't have access to a terminal, you don't have access to the system in all these kinds of ways, the babying has to stop for that system to be useful as a computer. You know, to me, it's always just going to be a media consumption device, right?
All right, let's move on to a bunch of stuff around screenshots and screen recordings. This is obviously something Scott and I do quite a bit. And I have been belly aching about my Cloud app for many years. So Cloud app was like a little screenshot tool. You take a screenshot and it will upload it and give you a URL, and you can upload files to it as well. And I have a custom domain name with it, and it's just gotten like kind of crappy over the years. So I'm trying to move over to this new one called Dropshare. You pay for it once, and then you hook it up with your own hosting, which is so cool. So it will hook up to any S3 compatible host out there, which is, I have it currently hooked up to Backblaze, and it will automatically give you a URL for it. You can have full control over it. I've seen people writing little Cloudflare workers that sit in front of it. and it works really, really well. So now anytime I have like a big file I need to send somebody, I just drag and drop it into my Dropshare, and then bing, it gives me the URL for it, and I can go ahead and share it on out. So big fan. This has been around for probably 10 years. And I've been talking about wanting something like this for a long time.
Yeah.
And I finally found it, or it finally found me. So big fan.
Yeah, we're going to get into some screen recording stuff here, and we have a lot of screen recording software on this list. I've used any screen recording software under the sun. So before you say try this, try that, I've used it all. Even just from like straight up QuickTime to ScreenFlow to iShowU, Cap, Screen Studio, all these. There's an endless amount of these, and even what's the new one with AI transcript stuff?
There's like a million of them.
Yeah. Either way, I can't even think of it. There's too many of these. What I have found, and this is thanks to CJ from the Syntax team, that OBS with the Source Record plugin is a pain to get set up. But once you have it, this to me is the promised land, because what it does is I can record multiple sources at once, as many as I want to a degree, and those sources are going to just spit out an MP4 at the end of the day. No proprietary format, no attachment to editing. Like ScreenFlow is great because you can record a whole bunch of sources and it drops them into a timeline. It makes it easy to edit, but the app is garbage. So there's a lot of problems just using straight up ScreenFlow for this. And all I've wanted, I even went as far as building my own, which I didn't complete because of screen recording capabilities in Tori.
Yeah.
But I ended up building my own for this. And that's how badly I wanted something that would just record each source individually and spit out an MP4 at the end of the day. So that way I can use my own tools to edit, to take care of it, take it across the finish line. So if you're the type of person who wants that full control, who wants an MP4 and doesn't want to be handheld through it and to use professional editing stuff, OBS, Source Record is the way to go. It works super well.
Yeah, I even went as far to message the developer behind Source Record, and like I was like, I will buy like a slight GUI that sits on top of Source Record.
I know.
Because setting it up is a pain in the butt, and then as soon as you want to record something else, it changes. Like it does need to be, and also like I was getting mega lag on my mouse when I was using like too many things. I forget exactly what it was, but very, very close. And I almost wonder if I were to upgrade to like a M3 MacBook Pro, if that would go away. And like we're almost at a point now where you can record windows instead of screens, which is my dream, because when I do my videos, I want to record like my browser and my code editor. And right now what I do is I put them all on the screen and then I trim them after the fact. And then I can swoop in the code editor and then swoop in the browser as I need it. But if you accidentally overlap one of them, then you lose what's on that thing. So wouldn't it be cool to record windows?
Yeah, you know what? That's on my target list. So I mentioned that I'm building my own, and I did not stop building my own. So I am still doing that. I'm just like waiting for better support for screen recording. And the idea for mine will be that you can record as many sources as you want, but also when you get into screen recording, you could record as many windows as you want, and it would just output them in their native aspect ratio, whatever that window is. So that's really the goal here with this app, but it's it's slow going, man. It's kind of tough to get. What you don't get, we talked about this a little bit in the Tori app, or in the Tori episode, what you don't get with a Tori site when you request screen permissions is the dialogue that says, what would you like to record? The window, the screen, whatever. You don't get that dialogue from Safari. And because that dialogue doesn't exist within the web view, it just automatically returns you don't have permissions for this. So in reality, what you need to do is you need to find a way to give the app screen recording permissions and have that be okay. The thing is it does work in production after you build the app. But that makes developing the app really tough, because when you're trying to develop, it's requesting permissions from the command line, which it's a big mess. Something I would like to get working at some point here. But this app will exist at some point. Yeah.
I've been playing with Screen Studio quite a bit lately, and what this will do is it tracks where your mouse is, and then you can also give it the size of your output video, like if you want to do like a TikTok video or a YouTube video, and it will give its like best guess as to like where you should zoom in. And usually it's like around your pointer, and you can go ahead and edit it a little bit. I found it too limiting. Like I've done a couple of videos here and there, and it looks really good, especially like the whatever math they're using around their easing and zooming in and their blurring when you zoom into something. It looks really good, like so much better than any other app I've seen, but it's still just blur. A little bit too limited. Like I'm still not able to crop exactly how I want it. And like I recorded my whole screen and I wanted to be able to like trim the videos. There's only one track, so if you wanted to move between the two, it just didn't work. But I'm very bullish on this application. I think it's going to do really well. I just hope it doesn't go down the what ScreenFlow did, which is just like try make it too simple. You know, my whole life is just a constant battle between wanting an app that's easy to use and wanting full control.
That's exactly it. Yeah, because the OBS and DaVinci Resolve workflow is great if you have the time and the knowledge and the skills of being a professional editor. And if you don't, then it's harder to make things that look really nice. And sometimes it's even, super easy to make things that look really nice in any of this stuff. I don't know if you've seen Detail as well. Detail.co is a similar application to that. And this was the exact same situation for me. It was like the moment I wanted to move my little headshot somewhere else or change anything beyond the defaults, it was like I was SOL. But to have the app work as intended is really nice. Here's another one, that people often say to use Loom to record quick recordings for your job with your face. Here's an open source alternative to Loom. It's cap.so. This application is actually built with Tori, and I use this source quite extensively to gain research into screen recording in a Tori app. And they're doing things a little bit crazier, so I'm not going to be able to, really utilize any of that stuff, but it is a cool repo to take a look at if you're interested in one, desktop applications with Tori, two, screen recording in that regard locally. And it just works as nice as an app. So check it out if you are currently using Loom and want an open source alternative. Yeah.
I also use one called Cap, but it is a different one.
Yes, I know. It makes searching for it very difficult.
Yours is CAP, and
yours is KAP.
Cap Pro is $9 a month. Your Cap Pro. This one is just a very simple. You need to record the screen, do very light trimming and cropping after, and export to MP4 after. So I don't use this a ton, but when I simply just need to record my screen as fast as possible, I'll reach for this one. I've also been using another one called CleanShot or CleanShot X. And this is fantastic for capturing your screen. It has all these really neat features, like if you want to record an entire website or you want to take a screenshot of an entire website, you can just scroll the website and it will make a single screenshot for you. Just the highlighting. It will also put really nice backgrounds on your screenshots, which I find to be really nice. So I also really like this one as well. I paid for it and I've been enjoying it, but I asked them, can I upload files? Because that's why I'm still using my cloud app. And he's like, he was kind of interested, but I don't think it's gonna happen. But this is a neat one. If you need to take screenshots and quickly give somebody the URL for it, both recording yourself and actual screenshots, check out CleanShot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty dope. Yeah, with the Cap app that you mentioned before, that app's been around for a while as a really awesome, open source capture application. And it's like one of the, in my mind, one of the really awesome open source, continuously improved applications. I remember versions of this thing a long time ago. It just doesn't do as much as I need it to do. But if you're looking for an alternative to screen recording on QuickTime or something like that, this GitCap is a really good one. As far as video editing goes, we get a lot of questions about this, especially when people are like, help me get off of Adobe software, right? I use Adobe Premiere. What do I do? So for me, and this is not just an alternative to Adobe Premiere. This is professional grade editing, maybe the best professional grade color grading software like out there. But DaVinci Resolve just hit version 19, is free to use in the non-studio version. And the normal version, the free version of this application is more than you could possibly need.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of features you get in the free version of this app are just absolutely wild. So I did eventually upgrade to the studio version of the app, but it was only to get access to a couple of little extra things here and there. For the most part, though, if you're just editing anything and you want professional grade editing software, DaVinci Resolve is a deep well. It is an absolutely massive video editing software.
Yeah.
And to me personally, I would never buy Final Cut Pro. I would never buy Premiere.
Can you even buy Adobe products anymore?
Well, yes, no, yes, I would not give Adobe money for their product. Yes, I would not rent Adobe Premiere. I would certainly not buy Final Cut. And this to me is like the end all be all of video editing software right now.
It's so good. And it's like I was talking earlier about like that mix between extremely powerful, but also easy to use. And like I feel like I'm like 10% into DaVinci Resolve, and like I can use it, but I was dipping into making a bunch of reusable. What's the word for where you make those things that all like clip together with the arrows?
Oh, nodes and like
nodes. Yeah. What's the word for that? Are you
talking about like infusion?
Yeah, infusion mode. Yeah, where it's like not just a linear editor, but you can actually put some logic to how these things work.
Yes.
Amazing. And it's like I don't know, $350 and you get a lifetime license to it. I don't know, because it was 18 a while ago. Now it's 19 and they didn't charge you for an upgrade. I'm sure at some point they'll say, all right, well, if you have a license from 18 and we're moving to 20, you have to buy it again. But they're not squeezing you and giving you $29 per user per month for these types of things, which it gives them all the respect. They sell cameras, right? So like, I think that's
they sell a number of things.
Here.
Yeah. If you're wondering why this is free, this photo on my screen, which is a big giant editing console, is why. Because they sell full-on master like control panels that production grade studios use. And if they get everybody hooked on using DaVinci Resolve and DaVinci Resolve being the thing to use, then of course when you go professional, you're going to want one of these Fairlight consoles that cost, massive amounts of money. But you're right, it's Blackmagic Design is the company that makes this, and Blackmagic Design does make most of their money off of cinema cameras, 12K cameras. We almost bought the Blackmagic 6K camera when we were moving to Century as our main camera, because the cameras are incredible. So either way, DaVinci Resolve to me is software that I hold near and dear, because it just does so much for you, and it's such a good editor.
Another good Adobe alternative, which I tried moving to, I just couldn't pry myself out of. I'm a heavy user of Photoshop and a heavy user of Illustrator.
Really?
And especially Photoshop, there's not a good alternative to it, but Adobe Affinity Designer is pretty close. And Affinity Designer is really cool because it does a lot of the vector stuff that Illustrator does, but then it also does a lot of the raster stuff that Photoshop would do. So it's a pretty good alternative, and it's relatively affordable. What does it cost?
Yeah, I purchased Affinity Photo a while ago. I'd have never gotten into Affinity Designer because it felt like to me like it was a wannabe Sketch, wannabe Adobe XD or Figma. And to me, I just always stayed with those. I know those tools are more of like UI and rather than like Illustrator, right? Illustrator has so many illustrative tools that Figma and Sketch don't have.
Yeah.
That's definitely work could come in handy. It's just not work that I do very often, right? I
both in terms of like photos, photo editing, and like textures. as well as like if you get into complex, like I've crashed Figma many times with some too many vector points.
Yeah. I do say as a Photoshop alternative, Affinity Photo is super good, especially if you like don't need some of the crazy AI stuff. Now, I actually don't even use Photoshop very much anymore. I used to use it a whole lot. I don't use it anymore, really. So I do have Affinity Photo too. I don't really use it. My Adobe alternatives are pretty much DaVinci Resolve and Figma are the two things that I needed the most. And honestly, After Effects, but I stopped doing any kind of actual motion graphics, so I don't really need After Effects anymore. I end up using an app. Actually, this is a good time to bring this app back, because I did a whole course on this app, and I don't know if this is still in production because I haven't used it in a little while. But Principle4Mac is an app that makes motion design really easy. Now, this is primarily made for UI, like hey, the stuff that Figma does now, where you can transition between UI screens. That's what it's made for. But this app can export in 4K, and what I would do is I would make my motion graphics screens in Figma. I would import them into Principle4Mac, and then I would animate them, export as 4K 60 FPS. That's effortless motion graphics software right there, which is really what I was using After Effects for, was, zoom, 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 things fly in and do all that kind of stuff. So I use this app a lot. One of my more favorite applications for things that should be easier than they are.
I also will throw Inkscape out there. Inkscape is a totally open source, free vector editing software. So if you ever need to do just a little bit of vector editing, you're like, oh, I need to edit this logo and change the color, or I need to make something a little bit bigger. Inkscape is probably a good solution for that. I only got into it because my wife has an embroidery machine, and if you want to convert designs to something that a embroidery machine can handle, one of the biggest pieces of software for that is called InkStitch. And it's a plugin for Inkscape, and it works really, really well. It's wild watching it convert a vector thing to how a stitch will look when it's actually being done by the machine.
Yeah. Let's get into some development tools here. And first one is called DBngin, which I actually thought this was called DBngin for a long time, to the point where I was searching for this and Googling, like, where the hell is this app? And turns out I was just calling it the wrong thing. This app makes it effortless. One, it works with Mac or Windows, but it makes it effortless to start your databases and not have to rely on something like Homebrew to keep those databases and those services up and running, which, like, I always found that process of like going to my command line and having let's say a Postgres process start or always start via the command line. I found that to be like so non-transparent. Like, is this thing running? Where is this thing running? Like, I kind of want a GUI sometimes, like DBngin, to just show me what's running right now.
A green circle or a red circle. I'm a simple man.
Yes. Simple man, right. Yes, exactly.
And also, like, if you have multiple versions of MySQL running, you can do that. I love it. I moved from just running Postgres and MySQL on the CLI to this. And it, by default, it has MySQL, Postgres, and Redis. But then it will also like scrape your Homebrew folder and look for any other services that it can run. Like, you can see it found that I have a Caddy installed, so I can start Caddy right from here, which is, I like that. That's one of my biggest gripes with Caddy, is that like I have to go to the CLI and start it, and then if I want to see the output, it's like sometimes just barfed into over top of my node and stuff. So big fan of this.
Yeah, and this app is 100% free, and if you're wondering why, like they say, it's because it's actively developed and maintained by another app that we have and love, which is TablePlus. Now, TablePlus, TablePlus is, and also works for Linux, Windows. I didn't know it worked for iOS. That feels kind of crazy. But yeah, TablePlus basically is the database management software. And this is an app I pay for. It's awesome because it basically lets you connect to your databases and modify them, control them, import, export, backup, anything you could possibly want for database management, which, let me tell you, it supports everything. It does everything. And man, This app is only like slightly annoying to me because of some little interface tweaks where it tries to open up another window when you don't want it to here and there. But in terms of like modifying a database, I feel like I've used a lot of software like this. And this one in particular works so very well and has everything I need it to do.
It is a paid app, but I'm just on the free one. And I think it only allows you to have 3 tabs open at once. I think that's the limitation, which has been fine for me. I use it the other day. We had an issue with Adam Argle's episode.
Yeah, Adam Gargoyle.
Where Adam was named Adam Gargoyle in the thing for like 3 years on the website, and no one ever noticed it. And
how? Yeah.
What ended up happening is that when he came back on the show, there was a unique constraint on the database for his Twitter, meaning that it tried to create another social login for the same Twitter, but our database schema says that must be unique. And usually what happens when there's 2 people on it, it just reuses it because there was Adam Gargoyle and Adam Argle, it had all these issues. So I tried deleting it from like the UI, and that didn't work because there was a unique constraint. So I went into Prisma Table or Prisma Studio and tried to delete it, but it didn't let me delete it for some odd reason. I don't know. It just dumped the whole thing. So I was like, you know what? Prisma tries to like run it through all of the like, oh, it's related to this item and you can't delete it. So I just was like, screw it. I'm just going to go straight into the database and nuke the record for that, as well as the related records that were needed. And I just went into TablePlus, deleted it, and everything was all fixed.
Word. Yeah. Yeah. It's something that I at this point, I'm working with a lot of databases. It's something that I have to use. I used to only use the MongoDB one, whatever that was. I forget what it's called at this point.
MongoDB Compass. That's a great
Compass.
one.
It's great, but it's only Mongo. And so it's like when I moved over to working less in Mongo, because remember my background's in Meteor, that's all Mongo. So for me, it was like getting into this stuff was like, yes, I have an app that's as good as this stuff and it works super well. Let's talk about Proxyman, which is an app we all love and use. Proxyman, a great way to proxy requests and see exactly what's going on.
If you want to see what an app is doing, so like right now, let's take a look at ScreenFlow. You can see the requests that ScreenFlow is making, and then you can right-click on it and proxy the SSL certificate. And for most applications, that will allow you to see what payloads are actually being sent through it. So Proxyman has been fantastic for both debugging and snooping around in terms of applications. And I love that you can filter it by the domain name as well as the application that is sending data out. I used to use one called Wireshark, and Wireshark is a little bit more, I don't know, it can do literally everything. Like it does TCP connections and like literally anything. It's a protocol, network protocol analyzer. And if you're getting into like IoT hacking, you're probably still using Wireshark. But if you're just a web developer trying to figure out what requests a domain or application are using, this is fantastic.
Yeah, super cool. I love all these tools. My favorite development tool on the Mac is Polypane, by the way. Polypane is just, it's a browser for ambitious web developers. But really what it is, it's like the best browser for testing your application. And this thing revealed all kinds of accessibility issues, whether that's like heading order. It reveals all. I think that's like the best way to state this app. It will reveal everything that's wrong with either the design or the accessibility of your application. And it has, like, you can see here, your windows open and all the different modes. You can inspect it all. You can screen record. It is like the device lab from the future that does everything for you. And so I use this thing nonstop. I happily pay for this app, and I get so much. Hey, I'm on the testimonials. Polypane really saving my bacon. Yes. Yes, love it. I also have one more that people have been mentioning. It's not a development app, but a lot of people, when we talk about the apps on this episode, people are like, Setapp, talk about Setapp. Setapp is basically a subscription service where you get access to a bunch of apps. Now, this is not my kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff in here, and I'm more of I will pay more to have the app license myself, because what's happening when you use Setapp is the moment that you stop paying that $9 a month to Setapp is, you don't have access to your apps. I don't feel like I want to be tethered to a subscription for all this stuff.
Yeah.
Just to have access to all these apps. And I feel like once you start getting in that mode, you're going to get tucked there. So if you're wondering why we didn't talk about Setapp in the last version of this, I think we're both kind of more by the license type of people.
It seems to be like less and less of a thing, and where you can just buy the application. Even I saw the developer of Screen Studio, which I just picked. They're about to roll out, instead of paying for it once, you are going to be $9 a month for it, which I understand as well. But it seems like absolutely every single one of them is going that way. One Chrome extension that I really like is called SVG Grabber. And this is really handy if you are trying to get a logo for something and you want to save the SVG. When it's an image source, you can very easily save that SVG, but often the SVGs are inlined on a website. So what SVG Grabber will do, you just click on the Chrome extension and it will scan the page for all of the SVGs used on that page, and I'll give you the ability to copy them or download them. Big fan of this. I use this all the time.
Yeah, when we were going to do a whole episode on Raycast, I use something for Raycast for SVGs, but it doesn't grab them from a website like this. So I'm going to have to use this because I'd be grabbing SVGs.
The one place that I use it that I probably shouldn't is sometimes I need to just quickly trace and vectorize something. And there's this one website that I use, and it will let you trace the whole thing and vectorize it and everything. And then as soon as you go to download it, they go, hey, $15, $15. And I go, damn it. Oh, they got me. I just spent half an hour. I thought this was free. So what did I do? I just SVG grabbered it and downloaded it. Went on my way.
High crimes on the podcast here.
Yes. Well, yes. I don't do it. It was at one time because it tricked me, Don't let me use the entire app as if I am going to be able to download it. You show me a download button and then come with the 1-2 punch.
Yeah, that's right. Don't trick us. So that's it for this episode. We're also going to be doing a couple more episodes on this. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite productivity tools upcoming here. So if you've been wondering what about some of our productivity tools, which are mostly just, I would say they're more of like web apps and native apps than they are Apple apps or Mac apps, desktop apps.
Yes.
And we're also going to be talking about Raycast too in the future. So if you thought we missed anything there, don't worry. We're going to be talking about all that stuff in the future. So let's get into some sick picks. Wes, do you have a sick pick for us today?
Yes, I'm going to sick pick the Magnetile Magblock Marble Run. So in the past, I've sick picked these things called Magnetiles or Magnetiles. They're under a million different names out there. And what is so cool about these is it's kind of like Lego, where you can just build whatever you want, but they're magnet based. And we bought them probably 10 years ago, and we still use them at least once a week. And for one of my kids' birthday recently, we bought the marble run that connects to it, so you can make your own little marble run with your existing tiles. So we've got quite the set now for this, and you can make these really fun marble runs. So highly recommend it. And this is one of those gifts. If you are like, oh, my friend just had their first kid, like, or what do I buy them? Or like, I'm going to this 1-year-old's birthday party. Get them Magnetiles. Get 3x3-inch Magnetiles, and they will love you forever. In 10 years. Oh, remember they got us this? Uncle Joey bought us the Magnetiles.
Uncle Joey.
Best gift ever.
Yeah, Uncle Jesse got us the Magnetiles. You know what? We got these, and the best part about Magnetiles is even if you have some and you get more, it just expands what you can do with them. So we've gotten them as gifts, even though we already had some, and they were really well used and received. I wish we would have gotten this marble run instead of, I think we got the kids 2 years ago for Christmas, like an actual marble run.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
like now we got two things. You got the marble run, which they do use. But it would be cooler if they could use the Magnetiles with it.
Yeah. I'm
going to sick pick a documentary on Netflix. Netflix does all these untold kind of sports documentaries, and I tend to like them all. So I feel like we don't miss any of them. But one of the most recent ones was near and dear to my heart, which was Sign Stealer, Untold Sign Stealer. In this sports documentary, Connor Stallions addresses the allegations surrounding Michigan football sign stealing. So I'm a big Michigan fan. I went to Michigan. Obviously, Michigan football winning the national championship last year was incredible. But I'm also going to be an apologist here, and I'm going to say this man did nothing wrong. And the Michigan, their team did absolutely nothing wrong.
What did he do?
Here.
Did he steal a sign?
So the long and short of it is that sign stealing and like thing in football is like they don't have headsets. So the coaches, to communicate with the players, they do all sorts of signs. And the other team's trying to decipher those signs so they can figure out what play the other team's going to do. It's a whole like back and forth.
Encryption. Okay.
But what you're not allowed to do, yes, encryption, perfectly. What you're not allowed to do is videotape your own, with your own camera, the sideline to steal those signs, but you're allowed to use the broadcast to identify those signs. So there's like a whole network of underground sign stealers that are like sharing clips and whatever. And if you want to see some dedication, this man
that's
like
wild.
Took photos of himself doing like 100 different or thousands of different signs and made a manifesto. And it's like crazy town. The whole thing is so interesting. He's even spotted on the sidelines of a Central Michigan football game wearing a disguise in those Meta glasses with the camera in them to steal signs for the other team. It's a wild documentary. And as someone who's like from the Ann Arbor area, went to that school, it was really cool to see your school and stuff on TV in that kind of way. So yeah,
I don't like sports at all, but one thing I would love to do is to go to either a university football game or to like a Buffalo Bills tailgate. It's just, I've been to a CFL football game. It sucks, but it seems way different football culture down in the States.
Yeah, and especially in the college football too. I mean, I remember we would go to tailgates and not go to the game because I didn't have tickets when I went there.
Tailgating sounds like my kind of jam.
Yeah, it is.
When the sports starts,
a massive party. Yeah, that's exactly how. A lot of people I knew took advantage of going to a school like this. But the Big House too, the biggest stadiums in the world, is an incredible experience. So, check this documentary out. Really cool.
Sweet. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. We will catch you later.
Peace.
Peace.